we've reached a point to ask ourselves, when can this tax be levied? When would the government be able to collect this tax? For collecting a tax, some event has to occur. Only after that, the government has the right to collect tax. And such event is called the taxable event. Tax can be collected after a taxable event has occurred, say manufacture, sale, or provision of services. So these are examples of some taxable event. In the current scenario, that is the taxable event today for excise duty is manufacture. VAT and CST can be collected on sale of goods, and provision of services would entail collection of service tax. So this is the scenario today. The taxable events are manufacture, sale, and provision. Can the government charge excise duty when a product is manufactured and VAT on that same product when it is sold? Definitely yes. This is the current situation where there are multiple taxable events which could lead to double taxation on the same products. And that's what the GST is trying to eliminate. The proposed taxable event under the GST regime, that is including all three, i.e. GST, CGST and SGST, is just one thing, that is the supply of goods and services. Another way how GST is simplifying the tax structure. Products are no longer taxed at multiple points. One product does not entail excise duty as well as VAT at different points of time, and that there is no difference between goods and services because you do not have two types of taxes, VAT as well as service tax. It's just GST. So there is no distinction between goods and services. Why is this important? Ever noticed on your restaurant bill you pay two taxes, the VAT as well as service tax? Why? Because in a restaurant you're consuming food, so that is a product, goods, and that the restaurant is providing you services by letting you eat in their place and the waiter serving you food. So those are services that the restaurant is providing. So you pay VAT as well as service tax, and there's always a lot of confusion on how to bifurcate such combined products into services and goods. And that's what GST will eliminate. You wouldn't have to pay two different types of taxes anymore, and that's a major step forward. So from everything that we've discussed so far, GST seems to be doing a lot of good to the economy. It's going to bring about a simpler tax system throughout the economy by reducing the number of taxes that are there. It will mitigate the cascading effect of taxation, no tax on tax, or at least reduced tax on tax. It will improve compliance as well as revenue collection because of simpler processes, and that it will make exports more competitive in the international market by not levying tax on exports. And of course, the destination-based consumption taxation would be a major boost for domestic industries because imports and domestic goods would be treated the same. But everything is not all rosy when it comes to GST. There are some cons as well. Local dealers would have to pay CGST as well as SGST. Why? We've discussed that CGST and SGST are concurrent taxes on the same good. For services, you would have to pay both the central as well as state taxes. Earlier, you only had to pay the service tax, which was only a central tax. Since GST is going to bring about uniform tax rates for all sectors, it could be possible that few sectors might end up paying more tax than they do right now because of higher rates. And we've seen that the producer states would lose out on revenue because all tax revenue would accrue to the consumer state. So they'll lose out on the excise duty revenue that they earn right now. Nevertheless, GST has lots of advantages on the entire economy when compared to disadvantages which are very specific to few citizens of the nation. When GST finally rolls out, it would definitely be exciting times in the entire economy. Let's look at how the government has been trying to implement GST. It started all the way back in 2006. The finance minister in the budget speech proposed 1st April 2010 as the date for introduction of GST. In 2007, the Empowered Committee, that's the EC of State Finance Ministers, constituted the Joint Working Group JWG, and the JWG submitted its report on GST to the EC. It's then that the CST rate was reduced from 4 to 3%. In 2008, the EC finalized its overall strategy for GST structure, and the CST rate was further reduced from 3% to 2%. Moving to 2009, it was when the first discussion paper on GST was released, and the 13th Finance Commission released its report on GST. In 2010, nothing major happened. So in 2011, the IT strategy for GST was released, and the Constitutional Amendment Bill was placed before the Parliament. In 2013, the SC tabled its report on GST. In 2014, the revised Constitutional Amendment Bill was tabled in the Parliament. In 2015, we are getting closer, the Constitutional Amendment Bill was passed in the Lok Sabha, and the joint committee constituted by the EC released its business process reports on GST. And finally, in 2016, the model draft law was released in the public domain in June. In August, the Constitutional Amendment Bill was passed in the Rajya Sabha, and the Lok Sabha passed this bill with all the amendments suggested by the Rajya Sabha. So this was the GST story so far.